Be that tree. It will never be the same as hugging my mother. Even though I pretend that it is her, at the end of the day, it is still just a tree. I have lost time with my mother. My younger siblings have lost time with our mother. The world has lost time with my mother because of the actions he took that night. I am filled with regret from that night. I constantly think about what I could have done to change the outcome, or what I could have done or said that would have saved her. But I know that no matter what I did, I would not have been strong enough. She was not done living her life. She has been stolen from us by a monster that will never be as important as my mother. My mother was and is important. A part of me was forever lost when the monster stole my mother in the dark. This monster, who I don't consider a man or a person, but a failure and a waste of positive influence on the world, made the choice that night to hurt my mother, to rid the world of her, my support system. He will never understand what he took away from my family. He knew what he was doing when he ripped my mother's life away. He knew the consequences of his actions would result in her death. He put her in a cold, dark place. He took my mother from me, but I will use my mother as inspiration, as stepping stones for my future, and pass them on so that she can live forever in the words and stories I tell people. I will use my mother's wisdom and strength in my life so that she can live on. My younger siblings and I will continue our mother's legacy.
Thank you.
This is Sam Rocca's impact statement.
This is an exhibit as well?
This is exhibit, well, 6, I believe. Your Honor, my name is Sam Rocca. Katie is my mother. I had just turned 13 when my mom was killed. I knew I was special to her because I was the only boy and her baby. I wasn't sure what happened to my mom when this happened. I just knew she was dead and missing. The past 5 years have been the worst, loneliest years of my life. I lost my mom, my caretaker, the person who I depended upon for everything. As I've grown older, I realize more and more what I'm missing and how much I missed. I was just a kid when Harry killed my mom. As an adult, I realized I didn't know much about who my mom was. I didn't get the chance to have adult conversations with her and ask her opinion on life and what I should do. I stopped getting the chance to be a kid when she died. It's hard to have a childhood when you can't sleep, you're crying all the time, and just everything feels like a lot, and you have no mom to tell you, don't worry, it will be okay. My world has felt out of control since my mom died. I am left with a feeling of insecurity. I don't feel safe. I feel like I now need to create my own stability to keep myself safe and rely only on myself. I witnessed my mom crying in her home every day. I felt like a guest and was bullied by Harry, a grown man, on a daily basis. I will never forget that. I couldn't protect my mom from Harry. I think about that every day. Harry picked on anyone smaller and weaker than him. Now that I've grown, I've also realized the true devastation of what happened and what he did to my mother and who Harry is. Justice was not done. The portrayal of my mother was false, inaccurate, and having to witness it was devastating. I'll never know who I truly could have been had I had a mother to raise me and to guide me. I'm graduating in 2 weeks. My mom fought so hard for me for school, and she would have been happier than anybody to see me graduate, but she's not here for it. It's hard to be happy when the most important person is missing. I do know I want Harry to have the maximum sentence allowed, and I hope he stays in jail the remainder of his life.
Thank you.
Mary Grace at this time, please.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. My name is Mary Grace Rocca. I am 21 years old, and Katie McLean is my mom. 5 years ago, I woke up in the middle of the night, looked down the stairs, and saw Harry Turk. I instantly knew something bad had happened. We made eye contact, and since then, I've been filled with a whole new level of fear I didn't know was quite possible. This fear didn't leave me after that night. I've been living the last 5 years of my life in a dark place, struggling to trust anyone, and feeling completely isolated. Losing my mom deeply affected the way I grew up and shaped my understanding of who I am. Without her guidance, I felt lost, which led me to cope in very destructive ways. Only now I am beginning to deal with the fear and grief he inflicted. Knowing how much my mom loved me and how that was taken away from me has broken me, and I've needed to learn to put myself back together without the person who was there for me. This was an intentional act of violence towards my mom, and Harry knew he would be leaving 3 kids alone without a mom.
Thank you so much.
Beth Nelson.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Thank you.
Very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. My name is Beth Melanson, and Katie is my little sister. It'll be 5 years, May 15th, that my sister, Katie McLean, was brutally murdered in her home, a victim of domestic violence, just feet from her 3 sleeping children. Katie was killed just 4 days after Mother's Day in 2020, and here we are again, days after Mother's Day. As a healthcare professional, a critical care nurse with over 25 years experience, I honor people at life and in death, allowing my patients to live or die with dignity and respect while being honest, transparent, and truthful with their families. What I've been subjected to witness and listen to during this trial was far from the truth, lacking any respect for my sister, her 3 children, and allowed her to be re-victimized in death by Harry again. It has taken 5 years to this day to get to this, 5 years of daily grief, trauma, loss, and heartbreak of losing my best friend. 5 years of memories now without my sister and kids with no mother. 5 years ago, back in May of 2020, I got a call from the kids asking if I knew where Katie was. Then was informed Harry had been back from Florida. I knew if Harry was back, she was not missing, she was dead. The next day and a half, we waited. The police searched. The first night, it poured rain. It was freezing cold out, and I was so worried that she was outside hurt somewhere. We had no idea where she was. Around 11 o'clock, May 16th, I got a call from the state police saying they had found her, and she was dead in a pond. It was the most gut-wrenching pain I have ever felt in my life. I was shaking with disbelief, trauma, and pain. It was a blur for the first few months. The events and the people I now needed to take care of didn't allow me to grieve myself. I had to tell my mother her baby was dead, that Harry had killed her. I had to sit and tell Sophia, Grace, and Sam that Mom was found, but she had died. And we didn't know at that time what had happened. I will never forget that moment. I barely felt like my heart was beating. I was crying all the time while trying to take care of my 3 children, now Katie's 3 motherless children, and my own mother in hospice. I had to plan where and how to bury Katie with the 13, 15, and 17-year-old children. I had to go see my sister's body before the kids. After an autopsy and 2 days in a dirty pond, my beautiful sister did not look beautiful. I had to clean dirty black pond mud from under her nails. I had to put lipstick and jewelry on her. I had to fix her hair. I put her in a bright Lily Pulitzer dress because that's who she was. She was bright and she was happy. I tried to make her look like Mom for the last time that the kids would see her. Katie was not a vindictive devil, as stated by Harry minutes after he killed her and dumped her body in a pond with rocks to ensure nobody would find her. Katie was a daughter, she was an auntie, a sister, a friend, she was a caregiver, she was vibrant and full of life. She always had a smile, she was calm, she had more patience than anyone I know. And most importantly, Katie was a mother To her 3 children, Sophie, Gracie, and Sam, everything she did in her life centered around her 3 babies. All of her life work was dedicated to caring for people who needed to be healed or taken care of. She was kind. She was gentle. She studied occupational therapy. She drove cancer patients to treatments who didn't have family. She did toy drives at Christmas. She volunteered at food pantries. She worked for years as a preschool teacher and always called the school her happy place with all the littles. She was a godmother to my children. She was a Eucharistic minister with the church. She was the room parent, the library mother, the Girl Scout troop leader, a Reiki practitioner, and she was my only relief in caring for our mother who was dying from Alzheimer's. Now, she's a victim of domestic violence and abuse. Her flaw was not that she was a vindictive devil, but that she was too forgiving of her perpetrator, thinking people could change and heal. My family and myself know about Harry's history. The bins lining the walls in her bedroom were packed and ready to leave the dictatorship within his home. There was no CPR performed on my sister. Any medical professional knows you don't move a body to a soft surface for CPR, especially a surgeon. Effective CPR needs to be done on a hard surface. Any medical professional also knows blood does not float up the back of your head when you're face down. It pools in a dependent position, and any medical professional also knows that a subdural hematoma is a key indicator of a violent, traumatic head injury, like repeatedly slamming someone's head off the floor. It is not a natural occurrence. The brutal assault and murder of my sister by Harry was by no means a momentary reaction or accident. The false claims of not remembering what happened, Harry dragged her body by her 3 children. Harry stopped. He saw one of the children had seen him. He had that opportunity at that moment to stop, but instead, he kept going. He knew right away the perfect place to dump her body. He disposed of her body with no regard for her life, no remorse, and now he's not taking full responsibility. I've now needed to make room for 3 more children in my home. I stepped into the mom role, celebrated birthdays, graduations, proms, driver's licenses, as well as countless sleepless nights, endless tears, chronic fear, and PTSD. So many moments lost to her children forever with a lifetime of lost moments and memories to come. I miss Katie every moment I am with her 3 children. I try to hug them like Mom would, trying to comfort them, give them advice like Mom would, knowing it's not the same. I'm not Katie. I'm not Mom. I pray to God that Harry stays in jail the remainder of his life, that he receives the maximum that can be awarded. There is no justice here because there is no truth here. This truly is the deed of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'll continue to protect and guide Katie's children as she would, and remember her like she was, full of love and light.
Thank you very much. Ms. Beatty?
Your Honor, as a preliminary matter, the Commonwealth would like to thank the court, the probation department, the court staff, and the police officers who are here today. Without all of those people, it wouldn't have been possible for the Commonwealth to bring this case to trial and for the defendant to receive a fair trial, and that's certainly a significant effort by everybody, and we appreciate that. We also appreciate the courtesy shown by the defendant and by defense counsel. This case was tried with efficiency, with professionalism, and with courtesy, and that's important as well. The lessons from the trial reinforce what we know about the dangers associated with trying to leave an abusive relationship. There are good reasons for no contact orders. We know that women who are victims of domestic violence struggle with obtaining safety, with obtaining resources for themselves and for their children. Housing and education are always high priority and difficult to obtain. You've heard from family and friends about Katie McLean's warmth, her talent as a healer, her love for her family, and particularly above all else, her love for her children. The sentence that the Commonwealth recommends is designed to address the harm that's inflicted by the defendant in this case, and the Commonwealth suggests is commensurate with the sentencing considerations as well as sentencing in other cases. I'm happy to respond to the court's questions about any of the other cases cited by defense counsel, but I would suggest that the majority of them are dissimilar and should not be considered by the court. Many of the defendant's letters that he submitted focused on his medical profession, and as stated in our sentencing memorandum, we don't think that that's the most significant consideration that this court should weigh in all of this. And so for all of those reasons, Your Honor, the Commonwealth urges you to sentence the defendant to 17 years in state prison. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reddington.
Thank you. Your Honor, I echo the Commonwealth's comments about the staff, the courthouse, Your Honor. This was a textbook, I think, trial that went in very fairly. All parties are certainly beholden to the court, as well as the court staff, to make sure that this is a very emotional case, but nevertheless was tried in a very fair, impartial fashion, for which we certainly appreciate. I know the jury put a lot of work into the case. They were very attentive, as Your Honor is well aware, and the jury has spoken. Whether or not the family of the deceased likes that, it's something that we cannot consider. The jury verdict. How many times do we say jury has spoken? We accept it. We don't agree with it, but we accept it, or we do agree with it. Jury put a lot of work into this case. They returned a verdict of manslaughter. We have things called sentencing guidelines. The reason that we have sentencing guidelines, and I know that you, whether you know it or not, your reputation is that you're, as we say, a guidelines judge. And that means that, as Your Honor, sentencing people, you do factor in, which you should, the sentencing guidelines. We don't, when I say we, I mean the defense bar and prosecute, we don't factor in emotion, we don't factor in facts of an individual case and try to get some type of vengeance or anything like that. We factor in, through the sentencing guidelines, a number of cases, studies, statistics that the Sentencing Guidelines Commission has put together to try, hopefully, and remove from the sentencing factors anger, revenge, excessive punishment, that type of thing, which is all too human. But the sentencing guidelines are something that a judge is able to look at and consider the factors that would guide those people to say, in this case, for example, that the guideline range would be 8 to 10 years. And that's based upon significant study, comparison of other cases, and their recommendation is something that I know is taken seriously by this court. I also understand that the family has a right under the statute to be heard, and they have a right to express their feelings, and nobody can understand the pain that must be suffered by family members when a person is taken from them at a young age, whether or not it's an accident, even worse if it's something like a crime of violence. I understand that. I certainly don't hold that against the people. I do feel that the emotion perhaps has taken sway. They seem to forget the 2 years that they lived together, that Harry provided for those kids. And I know that I had videos of many, many times that they were just out either in the pool, that they're laughing, they're having fun, they're downstairs in that basement room. And he stepped in, and as Your Honor knows, from motions in limine and things that were not allowed, and I'm not going to get into any of that, that there were a number of factors that he stepped in and tried to help out with Katie in taking care of those children. Suggest that the concept of being re-victimized, as set forth by the sister, I can understand the feeling, and I certainly don't criticize that. I'm sorry for any harm that I may have caused in the course of defending the case. I know that it must be difficult to sit there through a trial and listen to evidence, but nevertheless, that was evidence. When I come in here, I intended fully to get into a lot of factors that would be difficult factors to talk about. I sat with Harry, I spoke with Harry at length. He told me in no uncertain terms that he did not want any commentary whatsoever, disparaging or in any fashion saying anything adverse about Ms. McLean. And I respect that, and I'm taking that position. My request, as Your Honor knows, from the sentencing guideline range that I've requested is an 8 to 10. I would lose credibility, just as the family of the victim would like to see excess of the sentencing guidelines. My people, as it were, can't understand, well, why can't you ask for time served? He's been in jail for 5 years. And I try to explain to people, look, sentencing guidelines mean what that is. 8 to 10 is a reasonable request. I'm going to lose credibility with the court if I was to go in there and say, oh, no, give him credit, give him time served. No, I'm not going to do that. Wouldn't do that. I recommended guideline range, 8 to 10. Under the guidelines, as you're well aware, same thing in federal court, you can go over them. You can have a judgment where you feel that the factors of the case are such that an increase over the guideline sentencing range would be appropriate. The government has addressed that and said because he was married to her for the short period of time they were married, that's a position of trust and there's an abuse of trust, and also that the conduct after the homicide should drive an increase in the sentencing guidelines. And all I'm suggesting to the court is that the conduct after the homicide is exactly that. It's post-homicide conduct. Basically, fight or flight, taking advantage of the fear and trying to, obviously, as he testified, in a panic mode, cover up. But it's not indicative of the time of the incident and the killing. This was a killing that occurred as a result of hot blood, heat of passion. I suggest to the court that the letters that have been submitted to you show the respect that people have, and quite frankly, Your Honor knows that from his background. He has no record whatsoever. I'm not going to belabor the point that Dr. Zeisel has artfully presented to the court as far as his background, being raised behind, as we used to grow up and say, the Iron Curtain, his success in the medical field. Granted, that's wonderful, but it does not actually drive the sentence in this case. What drives the sentence in this case is sentencing the man so that it is, under the sentencing law, a sentence that is not greater than necessary to punish, to deter, and the other factors that were presented in the sentencing memorandum. So I'm asking that the court would consider the 8 to 10-year sentence to the state prison as being a fair and equitable and responsible sentence in this case. I spoke at length with Harry, and he would like, if Your Honor would permit, to exercise his right of allocution and be heard.
He has that right.
Thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, Katie. Please forgive me for having reacted in such a way May 15, 2020, that it caused the end of your life. I'm thinking about you every day. I wish I could make it all unhappen. I have been struggling and continue to struggle with the events of that terrible night every single day, and I wish there really would be existing a time machine. I could go back and change the outcome of that night. But there isn't. So all I can say or do at this time is, I'm sorry, Katie. I'm so sorry. I know we will see each other in the afterlife. And I hope we can make peace with each other, and maybe you will be able to find a way to forgive me. I have been waiting for 5 years to be able to reach out to Katie's children, Sophia, Grace, Sam, as well as to Katie's family, to tell them that how I'm sorry I am about the tragic events during that night, May 14 to May 15, 2020, and my terrible role in Katie's death. Please accept my condolences and apologies, Sophia, Grace, and Sam, for having taken away your mom from you. I can't even imagine the loss and pain I have caused you by my actions. The same is true for the other family members of Katie. I'm truly sorry to have taken away your sister, your daughter, your aunt, or cousin. I know the loss of Katie has caused and continues to cause massive suffering and pain, and I will pray for you all in the hope that time will indeed heal wounds caused by the loss of Katie, and that it will help you to heal, and maybe even to approach the possibility to consider to forgiveness, mostly for your own sake. I also would like to apologize to my own family, particularly to my children and my friends. My terrible actions and the loss of Katie's life have caused them a huge heartache, pain, and suffering. My children and friends felt and continue to feel disappointed and ashamed of me and my role in the death of Katie McLean. I failed them as a father and a role model and complicated their lives very much. I'm very sorry for having you all let down in such an unimaginable way, and I promise to use the time in prison and afterwards to become a better father and man. Your Honor, you don't really know the man you are about to sentence. I'm guilty of a terrible thing. I'm responsible of the death of Kathleen McLean. I want you to know that I'm truly sorry about that. And while you consider punishing me appropriately for my actions during the night of May 14th to 15th in 2020, please also keep in mind that until that day, my life has been devoted to saving lives and not taking them. But that night, I miserably failed, and I'm very, very sorry. Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing me to address the court.
Mr. Reddington, anything else?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to step off for a couple minutes, so we'll be in recess.
All right. What is he doing?
So you got,
Call forth the session. Please be seated.
All right. Let me just say that in determining what sentence to impose on Mr. Turk, I've taken into consideration a number of different factors. And certainly the starting point for this court are the disturbing facts that were found by the jury. The brutal attack and strangulation suffered by Katie McLean at the hands of Ingolf Turk. I can't imagine a human being facing her last moments on earth while being strangled by her husband. It's simply difficult to fathom. Moreover, while Mr. Turk is not charged with the improper disposal of human remains, the court notes that Ms. McLean's body was truly discarded like a bag of trash. The court acknowledges that this conduct is not to be considered as an aggravating factor as it occurred after the criminal act. However, the conduct is truly disturbing. I'm sure, let me just say to the family, that nothing that I can say can address the grief, anxiety, pain, anger that you feel on a daily basis, especially that you felt immediately after her death and disappearance, not knowing where she was or what happened to her. And then the additional grief of learning the circumstances of the recovery of her body and the anguish and grief that you'll suffer for the rest of your lives. As with any sentencing decision, I've carefully assessed the information made available to me in light of the sentencing goals of punishment, deterrence, protection of the public, and rehabilitation as reflected in the Massachusetts sentencing guidelines, which I've also reviewed. I've reviewed the Commonwealth Sentencing Memorandum, as I indicated, as well as the supporting documents. I've reviewed the Defendant's Sentencing Memorandum, the Supplementary Sentencing Memorandum, and supporting documents, including letters in support of the defendant. I've also considered the Probation Department's memorandum, as well as the very thoughtful and moving impact statements of the family members of Katie McLean. I've considered the facts of this case, along with the defendant's lack of a criminal record, his background and personal history, including but not limited to his many years of practice as a physician. I have considered the aggravating factors in this case, which include, but are not limited to, the fact that I do feel the defendant was in a position of trust, as well as the size and strength discrepancy between the defendant and Ms. McLean. I've also considered the mitigating factors, including the defendant's conduct and efforts to assist other detainees while he's been held pretrial. And let me just say that while there's no sentence that will satisfy all those concerned as a perfect representation of justice, this court must exercise its best judgment upon the evidence presented, the verdict returned, and all of the materials and arguments presented at this sentencing hearing as to the appropriate sentence to be imposed on Mr. Turk. Consequently, I fashioned a sentence that I believe will achieve these goals. Jim.
Mr. Turk, could you please stand?
Stand up, please.
Mr. Turk, the jury have returned a verdict of guilty of manslaughter on docket number 282CR138. The court sentenced you not less than 12 no more than 16 years at MCI Sousa Baranowski, and you stand committed pursuant to that sentence. You receive credit for 1,823 days served awaiting disposition. The victim witness fee is imposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
All rise.
Bob and Mike, 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
May be seated. Let's recess.